The hidden truth of Rath, Alice, and Project Alicization comes out. So what's up guys, Foxen here. Yeah, Asuna has found Kirito, but perhaps she's getting a little bit more than she wanted. Anyway, this week, SAO Alicization episode 6. Let's go ahead and get started. This was definitely a roller coaster of an episode. So last episode you saw the pissed off Asuna infiltrating the ocean turtle. Recall that Kirito took a few days to rescue her back in season 1. However, she took only like a day. Asuna definitely wasn't playing around. Either way, the truth of why Kirito was taken comes out from the man himself. Kirito's brain is so deeply damaged that only the Soul Translator is capable of helping him out. The kind of weird part is that they changed it in the anime, so Kiku already spoke to them about this, and even got their consent. Almost equally as weird is the raging Asuna backing off pretty quickly. Yeah, let's go ahead and trust this shady guy, and Kiku definitely has that evil glasses look down. And actually, I was trying to figure out who he reminded me of. He really has this Aizen vibe going on. And unfortunately for Asuna, they really can't do anything but wait. Right now, this Soul Translator is the only thing that could help heal Kirito out. Anyway, getting deeper into this, now you're finding out the purpose of Rath and the whole meaning of this Project Alicization. It's not VR at all. The Soul Translator and Underworld are only the means of achieving their true goal of AI, also known as a bottom-up AI. So in my last video on last week's episode, I mentioned Asuna cutting out the discussion about top-down AI like Yui, which is now why you have Kiku bringing it up here, something that wasn't in the novel. Or true AI that they're talking about is directly linked to the Flucklight clone, or artificial Flucklight. An important detail is that this artificial Flucklight is being stored in this light cube. You could think of this light cube as pretty much housing what would be your brain. In other words, every single person in the Underworld has a physical location in reality where their mind is being stored. Even more interesting is that these light cubes not only cost a good chunk of cash, but they also take real physical space. In other words, there's a physical limit to life in the Underworld. I'll be talking about this detail in my Underworld video coming up. Anyway, back to Kiku and Rath. So far, they've been only successful in cloning a human soul, but that's been about the extent of their progress. So yeah, only able to clone a human soul. No big deal at all. I'm actually thinking about how long it would take us here to digitalize a human brain, then easily copy it like a music file. I'm thinking at best that's decades away, and potentially scary when it becomes a reality. Anyway, from this you have their example of Higa's clone soul. To be honest, I recall getting chills on top of chills when I read this in the novel. Now with the anime version, you could actually hear Higa talking to himself. It didn't really give me that chill factor, but it made me feel really sad for this cloned existence. Once again, I wonder when this type of a technology will be possible. Maybe not in our lifetime. Now, getting into the meat of Rath. Why not just clone baby minds and raise them in VR? Sounds perfectly legal now. And I think you heard Kirito reach this conclusion in the first few episodes. Thanks to the World Seed program, recreating this world for them to live in was super easy. Thank you, Kayaba. Or should I say thank you, Kirito, since Kirito was the one to let it out freely into the world. And let's talk about the whole development of this Underworld society, which is pretty intriguing. I mean, isn't this almost like Adam and Eve? In this case, you got 4 real-life people, each given 4 baby souls to raise and nurture. Although, unlike the Adam and Eve story, well, let's just say no fun times going around. Even the children that later became adults here were quote-unquote given new clones to raise themselves. So yes, the origin of the infamous Stork Tale 2. And then in just 3 weeks, it was possible to construct this world of 80,000 people. At this point, it feels wrong to call it a simulation. I mean, they're not simply fake people anymore. So now you have Rath that has this morally questionable project that's been a huge success. Except, has it really? You then have the further truth coming out about the Axiom Church. Major problem right there. Thanks to religion, this Underworld is too perfect and peaceful. Damn it, looks like Kiku wasn't looking to create this utopia. And yes, Asuna realized it. That's right. The whole real purpose of Project Alicization and Rath is to create AI that's capable of killing. I think that says a lot of Kiku as a person. I mean, when he first looked at the VR technology, instead of thinking games, he thought of something else this could potentially lead up to. But just to give the guy some credit, he's done so much in only 5 years. And yes, let's talk about the Rath project that's leading into AI that could kill. But at the same time, people running this like Kiku and Higa are actually coming this from the point of view of, well, if you can't end wars, at least you could prevent real humans from dying off in these battles. Or so they claim. Just taking this at face value, it sounds like a noble cause. Let's see if they could actually walk that fine balance. This of course leads into the somewhat difficult discussion from Asuna, something that very much Kirito and Asuna believe in, which is the rights of the people living within the underworld. I mean, before, it was easy to disregard AI as not being human, but from what's going on here, that's no longer the case at all. At what point does something like this almost start to become inhumane? That's the difficult question. So definitely let me know down below where you stand on this. Should all of these VR people just easily be sacrificed? And try to think it over a bit before commenting. Of course, Kiku has a very firm position himself. Humans with physical bodies are much more valuable. Forget about one underworld life equaling one human life. For him, over 100,000 wouldn't equate to a single one. Ouch. And just like in real life, they switch topics instead of continuing this awkward topic. This gets into another grand reveal. So why was Kirito even chosen for this project in the first place? And yes, they oversimplify it here in the anime, but they needed Kirito since he was someone used to living in VR. I'll talk about this more in the changes part of this video. Next up, you have Asuna and the girls in Elfen Online. By the way, very nice of Kiku allowing Asuna to share these government secrets. As for whether you could actually trust him, let's not forget about all the stuff he's been holding back until this point. Anyway, getting into something important regarding Kirito. It's something that really hasn't been emphasized enough up until this point, but it is in fact that being around Kirito has greatly influenced Eugeo and Alice. Ironically, Alice even broke the Taboo index because she was concerned for another life, instead of wanting to kill her. Oh, and just by coincidence, the Taboo breaker is named Alice. So this is leading into another huge problem or oversight. Recall that the underworld is going at 1000 times the speed. In the case of Alice, you may have gotten some development, but then easily missed it due to the time difference. The Axiom church surely isn't going away, so it's definitely something to consider going forward. Next up, an episode highlight. You just gotta love the parallel of Asuna looking over the unconscious Kirito. Very nice addition of her promise ring, by the way. As for the important info here, they mention having 4 Soul Translators on the Ocean Turtle, and 2 back in Japan where Kirito was going. And next up, you have Kirito's private nurse. Surprise! Nurse Aki makes a return. Remember her from season 2? So what's with all these people having dual identities in real life? Watch, Klein is gonna turn out to be like 00 Agent 7. And then you have more Rinko coming out. So this episode has so much juicy info coming out one after another. You got Rinko calling Asuna over to her room late at nighttime. Ooh la la. Complete with boobage. Anyway, getting into the truth about Rinko and Kayaba. So you know they had some relationship together. Rinko actually had this bomb put inside of her and threatened to help take care of Kayaba's body. Otherwise, explosion. Except this was all a lie. The bomb was really so she could escape freely. And damn it, Kayaba, you could have inserted that bomb somewhere else. As for Kayaba here, once again you're getting more Kayaba from Rinko's past. I do like how Rinko was quite pushy in the past, enough to get this VR nerd outside. So yeah, these two were dating and I'm sure Rinko was the one to ask him out. Which this whole relationship seemed almost one-sided. Kayaba's heart clearly belonged to a different world. And I'm actually getting even more intrigued with the type of person that Kayaba was. Just what was going inside of his head. If you think about it, he didn't do anything special or sinister to manipulate Rinko, yet he fully trusted her. That was even after she found him in the mountains ready with that knife. Was Kayaba simply that trusting? Did he not care? Also interesting is the fact that the commander was logging in and out freely from SAO. Yeah, I think I'm gonna log out for a quick second and go to 7-Eleven. What a freaking privilege. Fortunately for all of this, you have Asuna taking the glass half full approach to the SAO incident. They're really never gonna be able to recover the lost time, or the 4,000 people that all died. But at the very least, Asuna was able to meet and fall in love with Kirito. Aww. And then for that ending. Whoa. Looks like Kayaba isn't only roaming around somewhere in the digital world. I'll go ahead and leave that scene for you to interpret. Oh, but by the way, a skip detail here is how that pendant that Rinko wears has that mini bomb sealed inside of it. As for some animation worth noting in this episode, something I really appreciated here was the visuals during the discussion about the Soul Translator, floodlights, and so on. Looking back at episode 1, I think some visuals would have really helped when Kirito was explaining the stuff to Asuna and Sinon. Although to be fair, perhaps the director wanted us to be a little bit confused, just like they were. Something else that I really loved this episode that wasn't only animation was how the storytelling was done with shifting between Asuna talking to Kiku and back to the girls in Elfen Online. That felt like A+ material right there. By the way, in case you're itching to get back into the underworld, there's actually not going to be more Asuna and real life stuff until the end of these first 24 episodes. Although we'll see. I got a strong feeling they're going to be adding some anime original Asuna scenes, although they may be short. Definitely wouldn't mind more of those. Next up, getting into the light novel changes, especially the cutout scenes from the 6th episode. A lot of the cuts and changes actually revolve around Kiku. For starters, during their whole talk with Kiku, he kept on taking out some sweet or candy. It was similar to the time where he talked to Kirito, always eating some type of sweet or meeting him at cafes. I'm a little sad to see this cut out. Next up, during the example of the collapsed clone AI. Originally in the novel, it actually survived much longer, about 4 minutes 30 seconds. Anime Kiku also skipped out the detail of Higa having an IQ of 140. Novel Kiku further mentioned how our human mind must not be able to handle the fact that we were not unique when cloned. Then the fallout from Asuna got cut out too. Asuna brought up the example of Yui. Even as a top-down AI, Yui hated the idea of being copied. Yui thought that if she was ever copied, they will likely destroy one another. Anyway, shifting back to Kiku. The anime skipped out on him and Rinko discussing whether it was simply possible to delete memories from the copied soul. Perhaps that could prevent the soul breakdown. Unfortunately for them, deleting memories wasn't that simple. Just to oversimplify it, memories weren't exactly like data. Trying to delete memories eventually led the clone to be in this unusable state. Next up, the story about how the Underworld came to be. The novel goes into the details about how the parent volunteers were chosen. The children were then super sad when they mysteriously died off. The parents in real life were even in tears as they saw their children burying them. By the way, here they brought up the limitation of the acceleration. Supposedly there was no limit, although they chose not to go past 1,500 times for humans. They also mentioned the theoretical limit of a soul being 150 years before degrading. This is going to be important later. Kiku here then goes into why Rath is even researching true AI. As expected, a lot of historical details got axed. Kiku in the light novel used past wars as examples. In the Second World War, 400,000 people died. In the Vietnam War, about 60,000 people died. Then in the more recent Iraq War, about 4,000 deaths. Slowly but surely, humans wouldn't be fighting in future wars. Kiku credited these 4,000 lives lost, along with other factors, as a fall down of the Bush administration, which eventually led into Obama taking office. I definitely didn't think they would include any political references. Anime Kiku also skipped out on how Japan had been so reliant on the US. For example, Japan right now buys their military weapons and jets from the US. However, all of this stuff is notably outdated from their current tech. Next up, the reason why Kirito was chosen for this. They really wanted to see whether there were issues with the cloning process or the light cubes. Did this somehow prevent the AI killing each other? Also not mentioned was how they previously tried this with 8 people from Rath. From this, they noticed something really weird. All of these people reborn into VR always seemed to be very uncomfortable and chose to never go outside exploring. The reason was due to even the Underworld not exactly being like reality. The one thing missing was the sense of gravity, since our brains rely so much on gravity to adjust itself. This led into why Kirito himself was chosen, someone who was used to living in VR. And I actually got the feeling that Kiku would have chosen Yuki if she was still around. Next up, Asuna logging into Outfit Online and informing the girls about the situation. Naturally, all of this was newly added for the anime. You heard me talk about last time how Liz and Silica weren't even told about Kirito. After Asuna James bonded onto their ship, she actually never talked to any of the girls again until the end of this arc. I'm actually liking this additional change. It's just more connective tissue being added, which will smooth out some future events. And my god, can we get to like episode 40 right now? So as of this episode, we're partway into SAO light novel number 10. I read this a while back, and I recall almost questioning reality after processing the juicy info given. I actually strongly recommend reading this light novel portion of this, especially if you love SAO. By the way, I am working on the opening breakdown now for SAO Alicization. That's coming up next. But anyway, more important, let me hear from you now. Question of the day. What do you think about all the reveals this episode? Is Rath ambitious or what? And how do you personally feel about this AI rights debate? Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, smash that thumbs up and subscribe. If you're new to the channel, I put out 5+ anime videos here every week. That now includes weekly SAO videos. And don't forget Attack on Titan videos too. Go ahead and check out my breakdown on all the Titan powers. And hit bell notifications, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.